Hello, my friends. Alfred Tuttle, the Rebel Turner, and I'm back with another adventure in wood turning. Yesterday I turned a piece that came out as I expected it to, and it still has a pop. That was from yesterday's turning, so it has a perfect fit lid. But looking at this, I started thinking, Jesus, I really missed the boat on this one. Because the beauty of this wood is what I see here. And not necessarily the little bit of spalting I get in between, breaking up the designs. Now, I actually told my wife, I'm going to bring it back to the lathe, and I'm going to take this bark out and take them off, because I think in itself, the contour that's going through it looks pretty good. But the bark, I am not so sure that I was thinking correctly. I think it would have even looked better if I had done a single ring of the bark, maybe like just keeping the bottom one and not necessarily the two, and keeping things too uniform, or you don't know what to focus on the piece. It's like, oh my God, the lid is beautiful. I mean, nice wood grain. And then you look at the bark and you're puzzled about it. You're really not sure as to what it does. It's different. That's all I think that it is. Now, if you are to get a piece of wood like this and you're doing a box, well, if I was to do another box of the same size piece of wood, basically, following up the same design without the bark, well, what I would have is still a box with a pretty wood grain on the lid and a little bit of spalting. Excuse me. A little bit of spalting going through the sides, and that would be the extent of its interest points. Well, that's where orientation makes all the difference in the world. So let's go with the secondary half of this piece of wood, because I cut this block in half. Let me see if I still got it here. This is the actual second half of that piece of wood. It was double its length. I cut it right down in half, and that's what I got left over. So how can I make this piece be a little bit more interesting than that one? Or at least hope that it comes a little bit more interesting than that. Let's get started and see the difference it makes on your choices on orientation. I'm going to take off this little nub real quick. Nothing to show. Just take off that nub so I can start off with a more uniform piece of wood. So to get this piece started, I basically look what's the longest part, what's the most wood that I have on this piece, and it's obvious that the most I have on it is by coming up to this shape, this being the top of the piece. Yes, that should have already told you what I'm going to do. It's going to be another box, no doubt about it, and it's going to be oriented side grain. It's going to be a hollow, more of a hollow vessel type thing. I also want to show you the laser setup on my hollowing arm, which I haven't had up in a long time. So maybe we can use it up on this one. Trying to get it close to center so I don't waste anything. Close to center. Alright, so if I go from center of my chuck to center of my life center and draw a line through it, that tells you where I am. And it's obvious that I'm not in center. So I won't change this point, but I have to change this point over here. The center of this piece, or the longest point, I would say that it's actually closer to this. So I will bring my life center more towards this middle point, and that's the closest point I have to center to capture the most of this. This will be the bottom. We'll have a tenon over here. I will do something like this, and the mouth over here, and maybe a lid with the finial. So let's see how that works. That's what I'm thinking of right now. And by doing that, it's going to show me sapwood. It's going to show me the majority of this heartwood. And that's what I'm after. So you can see, straight line going through the center. Or if you take a round blank, and draw a line as close as you can to center on your point that you want, and you line that line up with your spur drive and the other one with the life center, you're going to be pretty close, or very, very close to the center point. And that's where I am right now. Going to pull in my tailstock a little bit closer to the work, so I have a little room to keep tightening it up. Because the only thing you have to do when turning between centers is every once in a while, crank in a little bit. Give it a half turn. Don't even bother with your handle. Do it by the whole wheel, so you have the strength to be able to do it. Make sure that your cam is nice and tight against the body, and that's it. Now I'm also centered this way, so I got this blank pretty much centered to where I want it to be. So in a case like this, let's get back in focus on here. On a case like this, I'm not going to start throwing this up by coming from here, because I will be peeling away. This I'll be pounding in hard, making it very difficult, and every time I get to this top part, I will be peeling away on the bark. So the only way to eliminate that peel away is by coming off on a push cut from this side. So that way you're going with the bark, with the wood, and you have a much lesser chance of peeling away. So let's see how that works. Speed should be about 600 RPM on something like this. I'm thinking maybe a little faster. It's a fairly balanced piece. That's close to 700, 689 RPM. And I can already see the ball shape that I'm aiming towards. Work it to the outside. That way you're working with the wood, not against the wood. And I'm chopping this up in a little bit, so let me give it a quick chopping. Let's get going again. And that's why you gave yourself some room to keep sneaking that up. Although I still got some work to do here, I'm going to turn it around. I'm still a little lower here than I am here, which means I wanted to knock this down that way a little bit, but that's close enough. The only thing that would be very crucial is if I wanted to keep it with the flat sides, which I was considering. And by having it offset, well, I'd have to do something else with it. Most likely I would have to bring it up at least to the disc sander and pull up, sand this side down to the same size as this one. And that does work, but it's just an extra step. Now my tenon, believe it or not, is too small for this piece. So I'll build the tenon right outside here from the back side. Just an additional tenon outside of that one. And it will be a little oversized because I'm going to the outside of the jaws, but that's okay. No one rule fits all. Still could keep this on that side of the top, which would mean I would change the design a little bit, but I could take this to the bottom as well. So you can see how much bigger that circle is than this one. That means that I really want it to be slightly offset on this. Now I can still adjust it on this back side a little bit. Make this my base, and the whole thing will be a little bit truer to the size. That's much better on size. How about my tenor? That still looks a little small. Just makes it. Let's see how we got. So there's my lid that I want to do on this. I'm going to park that out and put that aside. So here's my lid for later on. So finish shaping this up, get rid of this flat spot and go in a little bit more. Want to make, why am I saying this? Because that's the shape that's developing in front of me is giving me ideas. I want to make it look like this lid actually opens up in a different area than it does. And I don't know, I mean, is that going to be like, wow, that's where it needed to be? I don't know. If I don't like it, I can always take it off. Unlike the other way around. I cannot put it back on. Later on. And that's where the lid is going to fit. It's going to follow up this contour right here. Just like you see it. Whoops. And I want a nice crisp edge down there. Like I said. And I will even burn that spot to create more of a shadow on it. my fake opening. Well, I thought I was going to use the Halloran arm, but this piece is, thought I was going to use the Halloran arm, but this piece is actually a little small, where I can feel my way around with all of, just doing it with a 5/8 bow gouge. Maybe a carbide scraper in the end. Alright, for the sake of it, I'm going to use the arm. Okay, I got this light, as you can see. That's overhead. I got this reflection a quarter of an inch away from the edge of the tip. So I can adjust that to be a little bit closer or a little bit further, depending on what I need to do. So that's right on the edge right there. I'm going to leave it like that. That will be determining the thickness of my piece. Carbide cutter, just slightly above center, slightly. I'm going to go in there as this light runs off the piece. That tells me that I'm right at that quarter-inch thickness, or that will establish how thick I am. Hello.
Made me some wood chips.
It's called shavings. I'm going to put a light out there, say on air.
That would be a very good idea, my dear.
I'm using that for a reference to this one. If I was going to take off the bark, it would have been gone. I am sanding with Adobe Shine Juice, wetting my sandpaper with that. And this Adobe Shine Juice is a mix that I was trying out, which did not work out very well. It does not give me the shine that I expected it to. And what I did is I substituted, because I ran out of shellac at the time, I substituted shellac with lacquer. And you know, it does keep the lacquer moist, it keeps it from drying, but it evaporates on the piece for some reason. I put it on and it just fades, literally fades. But for this, it still does its wonders. And if I apply enough layers on it, it does bring out the shine. But it takes a little bit longer. So this has been sanded with 80 grit, wetted it down. This might be 120 grit. Yes, this is 120 grit, I'm sorry. And that's what's on this piece right now. Nothing else. Time to go with the superfine steel wool and get a polish on this. Now, if that Adobe Shine Juice works well with 120 grit, I am sure that it works just as well with steel wool as well. time to apply the OB shine juice on a paper towel now. I gotta clean this up a little bit, and I'll keep it right over there and start sizing it. It's gonna be noisy. Way too noisy. So I'm going to try something else. And I already got the rub marks over here, so my insert is right over there. Let's see how that works. So when you have a piece of wood that could be fairly plain, so if you got a piece of wood that's fairly plain and you want to enhance it a little bit, you do things like this, for instance. You do additional lines. You do little things to it that can improve the looks of the overall piece. Not saying that this one did it for me, but the lines itself would have done it, and it would have just maintained a very plain piece of wood on the outside. A little blonde in color, nothing wow about it unless you make the design, the shape, or whatever that is appealing. But you miss out on the real beauty of what the block of wood might have had to offer. So you, by altering that, not turning it the same way, you could expose a completely different look to the same piece of wood without going too far. And you end up with this type of a result, where you have still the sap showing up, but you have this amazing brown as the overall look of the piece. So again, it brings you back to really the orientation of the wood is one of the biggest things you can do to enhance your final piece that you turn. It's not your cuts, it's sometimes it's not even the shape, it's just the colors, variations that you were able to pull out of the piece of wood because of what you did. So here's a couple of nice little boxes for the box enthusiasts that are out there. Bark, no bark, but both equally beautiful. And this one, all I need to do right now is just take it off and remove the bottom. Okay, time to remove the foot. Enough playing with this. And again, as always, I know I already got a place to mount it. Right? You better believe it. It's a mortise. So here it is. The bottom is done. Well, I would say this did not come out too bad. Both the bottom, the finish, not super gloss. This was rubbed on with a couple of coats of tung oil over the OB Shine Juice. The lid, well, somewhat camouflaged. You could think that it just flaps up over here, but and it has a little bit of a pop. It just comes out in the center part. It has a nice fit. And that's what you're looking for, what they call a wood turner's pump. I think it looks good. You let me know what you think, or which direction you think you would go if you were doing something like this. And the grain matches. It's a follow through of the grain, going from the side over the top. So if that matters at all, which it might not, but it's there just in case. It's a flow all the way through, with the sap going here, here, and the heart of the wood going there. And it's not super critical on which way you orient it, because it does have the sap on both ends and it's fairly equal. You're not matching lines, you're matching up color. Here it is, nice little box that will make somebody very happy. At least I think it will make somebody very happy. Take care. We'll see you next time. Same wood. Same wood. Almost the same size box too. You know, almost. This one becomes quite a bit larger because it takes the whole thing, and this one only went to catch the center. So, and this one was a little bit smaller. I mean, in all fairness, it was a little bit shorter. So, but the width started off as pretty much the same. Take it easy.